Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes with an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video.
That's going to be caught.
This week, the Minnesota Vikings head west to face the Los Angeles Chargers.
They'll take that all day.
Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern with football's best party. TNF Tonight, presented by Verizon. Not a Prime member? Not a problem. Simply sign up for a 30-day free trial. It's the Vikings and the Chargers, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation and sporting community news happening across the nation and on the Hill. Thanks for tuning in. This is the TSV Roundup. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this weekly edition of the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation news from across the country. 6 articles to bring to you this week. We've got an announcement about our latest Governor Sportsman's Caucus member, an update on the CSF and recreational fishing community weigh in on the EO on seafood. We got an update and a report on the South Carolina Legislative Sportsman's Caucus successful annual Sporting Clays Classic. Jake Gould brings us Great Plains hunters that are gearing up for the pheasant season out there. Montana Fish and Wildlife Commission works on disease management and habitat protection at their October meeting. And finally, we wrap it up with the CSF supported conservation easement on large working forest in Montana. Approved that from Senior Director Forestry John Colclasure. All of that and more, but let us get to the quick housekeeping. Our Pop for Conservation raffle continues. You are running out of time, as we are getting very close to the end of the year. popforconservation.com. That is pop, P-O-P, the number 4, conservation.com. That's the website. Go and get your chances, your raffle tickets. Get involved at popforconservation.com. There you can enter to win vehicles, firearms, fishing equipment, trips of a lifetime, all sorts of gear for the outdoorsman or woman in your life. That is Pop for Conservation, P-O-P, the number 4, conservation.com. Go there now, or after you're done listening to this program. Our NAS Summit is fast approaching as well. Those of you who are attending, listen up. If you've not registered, be advised our early bird registration period has expired. But good news for you being part of this audience, as we got a special promo code for you for listening audience only of the podcast. You go to the Summit registration page at checkout, enter the code word Birdman, B-I-R-D-M-A-N, Birdman. That will get you $50 off your registration. That is equal to the early bird discount that we had back a little while ago. Again, this is for podcast listeners only. We are not going to post this code on social. We're not going to email this out. This is just for you, the folks that tune in every week and listen to this program. Agency, legislators, all of our colleagues that are out there tuning in. If you're coming to Memphis in December and you haven't registered, an exclusive discount for you, the listening audience only. Enter Birdman, B-I-R-D-M-A-N, at checkout when you register for the NAS Summit. Okay. I think that is all of our housekeeping. Cool. Let us get on with the show. We got some good news coming out of Pennsylvania. Not only did Governor Josh Shapiro do a great thing earlier this year, or later this summer, earlier this fall, by rescinding with his signature the Sunday hunting prohibitions in Pennsylvania. But if you listen to his his speech, his comments, you got a real flavor that the governor is supportive of the sporting community. And it made a lot of sense for him, as we called out on this program, and as well as our team there in the Mid Atlantic, Assistant Manager Kaylee Leaguer, who works directly in Harrisburg with the governor's office. We shouted him out. I said, Governor, all this is great. It would make so much sense for you to join our governor sportsman's caucus, that third leg and the three leg stool that we always talk about, and how our state caucuses and the federal caucus and then the governors all work together to advance and promote sporting policy. And he obliged. So with that, we welcome Governor Josh Shapiro as the 28th governor to join in 2025 to the governor's sportsman's caucus. One of the last lines of defense against attempts to undermine our time honored outdoor traditions is located on a governor's desk. And this is why the governor's sportsman's caucus is a critical component of the aforementioned three-pronged approach, or the three-legged stool there, to CSF's mission. By joining the GSC, Governor Josh Shapiro has demonstrated his dedication to the Keystone State sportsmen and women. So that's great. We love to see it. Glad to have him. And I just think it speaks to the authenticity. It supports the governor's words there after that big rescinding of Sunday hunting completely, and turning that authority over to the PGC. So welcome, Governor Shapiro, to the GSC. We're glad to have you. We got a update here from Chris Horton. CSF and recreational fishing community weighs in on seafood executive order nationally. In August, the South Atlantic Council invited stakeholders to weigh in on President Trump's Restoring American Seafood Competitiveness executive order through the South Atlantic process. And we did. Leadership of NOAA's National Marine Fisheries Service recently extended a similar invite to provide thoughts and comments on the executive order from a national perspective, and not missing any opportunities to try to steer NMFS towards more efficient management of recreational anglers. Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation and the recreational fishing community provided a comprehensive list of priorities for better marine fisheries management. Some highlights here from Chris. 15.1 million marine recreational anglers support 691,565 jobs and annually contribute $138 billion in sales impacts to the U.S. economy. That is huge. A recent presidential executive order provided a formal opportunity for the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation and others to weigh in on how we can manage our marine recreational fisheries for the better. So going back to April of this year, President Trump issued an EO on restoring American seafood competitiveness. Since that time, the 8 regional fishery management councils have been soliciting stakeholder input on how to best address the opportunities presented by the EO. NOAA's NMFS recently invited comments from a national perspective, and last week CSF joined the American Sport Fishing Association, Center for Sport Fishing Policy, and the Coastal Conservation Association in providing our suggested actions. While much of the executive order focuses on commercial fishing and the seafood industry, many of the policies and priorities equally apply to recreational fisheries, such as addressing overregulation, ensuring access, improving fisheries management and science, and modernizing data collection. Along those lines, CSF and our partners urge the administration to consider, among others, recognizing the economic, social, and cultural value of recreational fishing, both for personal and sustenance and recreation, envisioning the fisheries management process to ensure sufficient and accurate data is collected on recently important fisheries to avoid highly precautionary management approaches that unnecessarily stifle fishing opportunities. Go back to last week's program, we got into some of that when we're talking about stripers. And there's others, but that's a good example. Avoiding limited access privilege programs and the charter for hire industry that reduces access for non-boat owning anglers. Reviewing and reevaluating NOAA's vessel speed restrictions for marine mammal protection, focusing on the latest marine electronics advancement as viable solutions. Establishing more artificial reefs, which are an important conservation tool that can enhance and replace degrading natural structures such as coral reefs and increase habitat connectivity and metapopulation ecological benefits for species with high reef affinity. Supporting state led data collection and management as a pathway to improving data collection and access to recreational fisheries. Ensuring congressionally funded independent absolute abundant estimates become the baseline from which new stock assessment models are built to reflect similar population abundant estimate. Collecting more robust recreational economic data by specific fisheries, which is currently lacking in the biggest way for most recreational significant species. Encouraging the use of alternative management measures such as harvest control rules that provide more appropriate fishing access when stocks are doing well. Naturally, we CSF appreciate the tenets of the EO, and we look forward to working with the Secretary of Commerce and the regional fishery management councils to improve management of our recreational fisheries. A lot of that stuff, like I said, harkens back to some of the conversations we've had on this very program. We appreciate Chris's update and reporting on that. All right, we're heading down to the Palmetto State where the South Carolina Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus got together for their annual South Carolina Southern Sporting Classic, which was held at the Palmetto Shooting Complex right there in Edgefield, South Carolina, the headquarters and home of the National Wild Turkey Federation. It's a beautiful facility. It's hot as hell, but it is a beautiful facility. Having, again, as most of you know, having been NWTF alum, spent many days, times, and hours at that facility, and it is beautiful, and it's a very nice place to shoot, which is why obviously the Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus there chose it to have their annual sporting classic. Uh, this was held on October 16th, and about 100 plus members of the sporting conservation community joined members of the caucus for a day of camaraderie and friendly competition on the sporting clays course, followed by dinner and a reception. Caucus leaders were able to discuss past policy wins like the opening of public land Sunday hunting in 2023 and focus on upcoming policy priorities like House Bill 3872, no net loss of public lands, and get that across the finish line in 2026. While legislators are not in session in South Carolina in the fall, there's still work to be done. The quickly approaching 26th legislative session is set to kick off in under 3 months, and members of the sporting conservation community want to ensure that their voices are heard. The caucus remains active throughout the year by hosting events like the South Carolina Southern Sporting Classic to hear from members of the sporting conservation community. And with hunting seasons in full swing, whether participants admit it or not, most could always use a couple extra reps at the Sporting Clays facility before heading afield. Caucus co-chairs Representative Bobby Cox and Senator Russell Ott spoke on behalf of the caucus and its effectiveness in Columbia over the recent years, as well as highlighted upcoming efforts. They celebrated the recent expansion of public land Sunday hunting being opened in 2023 for the first time in South Carolina's history. Looking ahead, caucus leaders expanded on upcoming efforts for 2026, like getting House Bill 3872, a bill that passed the House unanimously last session and would protect public hunting lands in the Palmetto State across and get that across the finish line when the legislature reconvenes in early 2026. On the events front, the caucus leadership highlighted a very successful policy reception held in Columbia during the session earlier this year. Additionally, Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation Senior Coordinator, Southeastern States Connor Barker discussed the highly anticipated NASC Summit, scheduled to take place in Memphis, December 9th through 12th. Remember, enter the code BIRDMAN to get your discount if you're going, if you already haven't registered. South Carolina sends strong contingency and partners and caucus members to NASC each year, and this year is expected to be no different. Also in attendance were members of the Collegiate Sportsmen and Women's Coalition from Clemson University and the University of South Carolina. The Collegiate Sportsmen and Women's Coalition is a network of individual student-led organizations supported and guided by CSF that offers a new approach to supporting conservation student organizations on campus focused on policy education and engagement. Last note here, CSF and the caucus thanks all of its partners that sponsored this year's South Carolina Southern Sporting Clays Classic, including the Southern Group presenting sponsor, South Carolina Automobile Dealers Association title sponsor, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, Ducks Unlimited South Carolina, Farm Bureau Federation, FN Firearms, Local Boy Outfitters, the Nature Conservancy of South Carolina, Nucor, National Shooting Sports Foundation, Santee Development Corporation, South Carolina Sporting Dogs Association, and 1101 Public Affairs, host sponsor, for generously supporting the caucus. Sounds like a great event. A lot of motivated folks there. Great job to all those folks, and thank you, Connor, for your reporting there. This from Jake Gould. We're talking pheasant hunting across the Great Plains. One of the most anticipated fall hunting seasons is opening soon. Pheasants stand as one of the most popular birds hunted in the Great Plains and offer opportunities for groups to get out and hunt together. However, the pheasant hunting season could have looked substantially different in North and South Dakota if certain legislation would have been successful earlier this year. Legislation introduced during the 2025 legislative session in both North and South Dakota could have negatively impacted this year's pheasant hunting season. Find out why. With North Dakota's season already underway, and with other states in the region opening their seasons in late October and early November, the Great Plains offer some of the best opportunities for hunters to hit the field and get their chance to hunt upland birds like pheasants that are very iconic to that area, and offers a great opportunity to introduce new hunters to time-honored outdoor traditions. This year's pheasant season, like we said, could have looked much more different. North Dakota introduced Senate Bill 2168, which would have required hunters to have permission from neighboring landowners to hunt within 440 yards of an occupied dwelling structure, storage structure, and even if the structures were not located on the property they are hunting. 2168, which was successfully defeated, would have ultimately limited hunting access, including access to pheasant hunting fields. In South Dakota, House Bill 1236, which would have increased the discharge distances in South Dakota rather, got Connor on the mind there in that last one, from 660 feet to 1/4 mile, or 1,320 feet. House Bill 1236 was also defeated and would have doubled the size of the discharge distance zone, and definitely would have messed up access for pheasant hunters, to be sure. There's a problem with these discharge limits here, and when I say there's a problem, I don't necessarily say there's a problem with having them. It's how they get co-opted, and in this case that Jake's reporting, South Dakota doubling the thing out to 1/4 mile. That's ridiculous. It's just it's unnecessary, and it's people flexing on what we have here and limiting access. You got to think 1,300 feet what's the max effective range of number sixes going after pheasant? I would say it's not very far, and the conical dispersal of those pellets certainly are not reaching out so far as to cause any damage or issue, especially in wide open fields. Right. Um, Good that they were defeated. We see stuff like this on coastal states, especially when it comes to duck hunters. And you have people that have very posh lifestyles. I don't begrudge them this. I'd do it myself if I was of the means, but they have these very posh coastal homes or beachfront homes, summer homes. A lot of them have this understanding that they own the beach into the water, which, they own some of that up to a higher water mark in most places. So they don't have exclusive rights to their private beach or the ocean, as it were. And that's where these duck hunters go out and hunt. And because they don't like to see the duck hunters, they don't like to hear the duck hunters out there, they lobby and work either at the state level or at the municipal level to double and triple distances from hunting where they're already at a safe distance and not encroaching and not impeding trespass or private property rights. But you start getting out to a half a mile, we're not duck hunting, we're deep sea fishing at that point. It's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, these are examples. They continue to largely get defeated, but that doesn't mean they're always gonna get defeated, so, you get some of these bills that look innocuous, but you read into 'em and you find out they're gonna distance you right out of your access and, start putting that together with, dwellings, structures at all, and whether someone's living in them or not, and man, you quickly lose many, many, many square miles of access. Thanks for the heads up on that, Jake, and the retrospective look at what could have been. Thank goodness it's not. All right, we're getting down to it here. Marie Newmiller is giving us an update. Montana Fish and Wildlife Commission advances disease management and habitat protections at their latest October meeting. Let's see here. The commission approved Fish, Wildlife, and Parks request to move forward with the amended process for CWD rules, chronic wasting disease, under ARM 12.6.1015. Several conservation leases aimed at improving riparian and grassland habitats received a green light from the commission. And CSF will continue to ensure that the sportsman's voice is reflected in future updates. So the meeting took place on October 9th, and the commission took decisive steps to confront several pressing wildlife health changes and habitat conservation needs, underscoring the state's approach to game management. With sportsmen and women relying on healthy populations and recreational access, these outcomes signal a forward thinking strategy to mitigate risks where protecting Montana's renowned outdoor heritage is important. Disease impacting ungulates where were central to the commission's agenda. The conversation began with a request from Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks to initiate a rulemaking for ARM 12.6.1015, which governs chronic wasting disease in an effort to create a more durable rule. The commission voted unanimously to initiate the MAPA rulemaking process, and public comment opportunities will become available prior to the final rule adoption. In addition to the CWD proposal, FWP shared emerging information on the EHD and blue tongue outbreak that was reported on here recently. This late addition to the agenda was prompted by urgent field reports highlighting clusters of white-tailed deer deaths along the Clark Fork River west of Missoula and in the Frenchtown area. The disease, EHD, transmitted by biting midges and exacerbated by drought conditions, had prompted FWP to request flexible hunting season modifications limiting the future sale of surplus deer tags available for purchase in Region 6, which is the heart of the outbreak. Commissioners expressed concern that limiting white-tailed deer opportunity may increase pressure on recovering mule deer populations in other regions as hunters seek alternative opportunities. After a lengthy discussion, considering several concerns com- commissioners received from hunters, the commission voted to limit the sale of the 00600B licenses to 2,000 in total and limiting the opportunity for individuals to purchase a single tag beginning October 10th. Complementing these herd health focused actions, the commission also greenlit a slate of habitat conservation leases, marking a win for proactive land stewardship. These agreements will enhance conservation efforts on thousands of acres of riparian and grassland habitats crucial for species like sage grouse, pheasants, and ungulates. The potential benefits of habitat and conservation leases were highlighted by an informational update on FWP's Pheasant Enhancement Program, which included habitat enhancements under the Upland Game Bird Enhancement Program. That program initiative aims to not only boost bird numbers, but also foster partnership with private landowners for habitat protection and recreational access. These members combine these measures combine to create adaptive wildlife governance where science and sportsmen's voices converge to navigate emerging impacts on wildlife populations. CSF is a strong proponent for science based adaptive management. Utilizing the North American model of wildlife conservation, we will continue to monitor and engage on these rulemaking meetings, ensuring that sportsmen and women's voices are reflected in final decisions. Yeah, you go back, uh, supplement what she just reported the update there, but she did submit a piece highlighting the blue tongue outbreak EHD there and what that all entailed. And interesting, I just last week wrote an article about drought conditions in the Northeast and how that's going to impact well, it impacts everything, but specifically trapping and what that looks like as waterways dry up. And here's another consideration, that my article talked about fur bears, some aquatic species getting together and concentrating in disease there. And here's another take on drought and getting all those ungulate species together in one spot, concentrating and just um, really hitting the nitro booster on disease spread. Where if there were more resources out there, if drought wasn't such a terrible thing this year, especially it feels like, you would have more dispersal and not have the congregation of critters. So it's just another terrible byproduct of the dry landscape that we have and limited resources. Um, Finally, we're going to wrap things up here from our senior director of forestry from John Colclasure. He's talking about CSF supported conservation easement on large working forest in Montana. Development and conservation to non-forest uses are the biggest threats to privately owned forests in the United States. As forest lands are developed, fish and wildlife habitat is fragmented, and hunting and fishing access is often lost as well. Land subject to conservation easements remains in private ownership and continues to pay county real property taxes. Easements on working forests ensure that the land will be actively managed to reduce wildfire risk and support the forest industry and conserve fish and wildlife habitat and open spaces that benefit the public at large. In July, CSF submitted a letter supporting the Montana Great Outdoors Conservation Easement, Phase 2, to conserve the in perpetuity a large working forest in northwest Montana that guarantees public access for hunting and fishing. On October 20th, the Montana Board of Land Commissioners approved Phase 2 of the Montana Great Outdoors Conservation Easement. The project conserves almost 53,000 acres of working forest land in Flathead and Lincoln counties, owned by the Green Diamond Resource Company, and builds on the success of phase one of the Montana Great Outdoors Conservation Easement that previously conserved roughly 33,000 acres of forest land. Green Diamond donated roughly 35% of the value of the conservation easement, and the remainder of the easement value was purchased with funding from Habitat Montana, the Montana Fish and Wildlife Conservation Trust, and the U.S. Forest Service's Forest Legacy Program. CSF's letter stressed the importance of approving the project to maintain public access for hunters and anglers and to conserve an important wildlife migration corridor and year-round habitat for species popular with sportsmen and women, including, among others, mule deer, white-tailed deer, elk, and West Slope cutthroat trout. CSF's letter also underscored the importance of the project conserving working forest land that will continue to be managed sustainably for timber to increase forest resiliency to wildfire and other threats, as well as improve wildlife habitat and support the state's economy. The Montana Great Outdoors Conservation Easement was supported by in-state national sportsmen's groups, and CSF thanks the Montana Board of Land Commissioners for investing in this critical conservation project that supports Montana's outdoor sporting traditions. Thank you to John. We haven't heard from John in a little bit, so it's great to have his contributions back to the Sportsman's Voice. That's it. That's our articles. That's our news for this week. A little bit more expedited show this week. Don't forget the likes, the follows, the subscriptions, the easy stuff. It's all free for you, the information, and it takes a couple seconds of your time to hit the follow or subscribe and fill the 5 stars. Really appreciate it. And like I say, every week, it really helps the show get pushed to new audiences and become more discoverable. So people are getting this information as they should, as we want them to. So they become more informed and better understand our issues and concerns. Don't forget, when you get the EPUB edition, when you go to congressionalsportsmen.org and you sign up for the EPUB TSV, all those articles I just brought you, they all have great in-article links. So you just click through and you get brought into a whole nother realm of information, cited sources. It just makes your arguments and your ability to research that much more easier and provide more information to arguments, especially if you are in the legislature advocating for bills that are relevant to the information we're presenting. So it's also free and use it as much as possible. That's going to do it. I hope your seasons are going well. It's getting cold up here in the north, so definitely looking forward to that, kicking off some whitetail rut action, among other things. But it's a great time of year. November is almost here, and yeah, like the rest of you, just looking forward to getting out and experiencing everything that we fight for every day. So good luck to you out there. Shoot straight, be safe, get home to your families, and have a good time. No feature this week. Go back, check out Fur Takers of America college episode. Had a lot of fun. I always have a lot of fun talking trapping, but it's a cool episode. If you ever had an interest in the college or you're hearing about it for the first time, go back, check that out, and take a listen to that show and the guests we had on there from FTA. And we'll do this all again next Wednesday. So until then, remember, CSF is your inside connection to outdoor legislation. We'll see you next time. So long.
Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.